Let me bring now Dr. Al Kassimi. Dr. Al Kassimi, if we look at the broader tapestry, we see nations from the global south and blocs like BRICS characterizing this aggression as a rogue US aggression. With the US actually failing 4 times to get congressional approval for this war and also struggling to sell it, perhaps even to NATO allies. So, could this war be the catalyst that ends the unipolar moment and accelerates perhaps a non Western global order?
Well, that narrative of the conflict being labeled as aggression, it has gained traction. And if I may, I would also mention global north countries. So countries like Spain, France, Italy, they might not have said the United States is being aggressive, but they have stated that this war shouldn't have happened the way it did. They should have given diplomacy a chance. I think Donald Trump yesterday said that he wants to kick Spain out of NATO. So it does show you that there is a lot of discourses and that the United States doesn't necessarily have control over its NATO allies or Europe the way it used to. So yes, there has been repeated failures locally. The United States hasn't been capable of getting congressional authorization. And as I said, even within NATO, there has been hesitation. We do remember that a lot of European countries have actually declined allowing American Air Force use European airspace. So that is something that is very indicative. And going back to the comments, because this is a link to the question, your guest from Budapest, I think what you said is extremely important. The ministerial meeting that happened in Cyprus is actually a clear example where some countries in the global north and in the global south have actually joined hands. For your viewers, if they don't recall what happened in Cyprus, you had several Arab League countries from Jordan to Syria to Lebanon. You had the GCC Secretary General there. And they all collectively met outside of Washington-led frameworks. Okay, Washington wasn't there. I don't think Britain was there either. Surprisingly, those are the two architects of the old international system. Okay, so it does show a willingness by the Europeans, some European countries, and Arabs, and it shows a willingness to coordinate policies independently from Washington. And this actually fits into a larger trajectory. The conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran did not create the shift. I'm sure your guests would agree that Arabs have been, or the global South generally, has been for the past several years reconfiguring its alliances, expanding its economic partnerships beyond the United States. This is extremely clear when it comes to the GCC. Back in 2024, His Highness Emir Mohammed bin Salman in 2024 for the first time, this is the year 2024, announced the first time that they will no longer be selling oil strictly in US currency. Okay, and this is obviously a huge move for the petrodollar. So for those who keep saying that the petrodollar started collapsing now, I think the writing was already on the wall several years ago that there is an international shift happening. Arab sales of energy being in Chinese yuan, trade investments in Africa and in Europe have deepened. So finally, for your last question, which is this a definitive end of the unipolar moment? I would argue humbly that is way too early to declare such a historical rupture based on one conflict. But I think the symbolism matters, because when Washington wants to secure domestic approval, and it can't, as you said, congressional approval was not authorized. when it cannot get together a coalition of the willing, when its NATO members and NATO allies close airspace, when Arabs oppose, that material symbolism, that material reality, I personally think is more important than any single battlefield outcome. That's where I would.
Clear.
That's what I would say in relation to that.
Clear, Dr. Kassimi. Now